Welcome to Super Talk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride. All right, sir. I'm good on my end. You ready to roll, Professor?
Let's go.
Let's go. In 3.
Welcome to Super Talk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode number 56. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pettis, and with me, as always, is my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella. Titanium.
Professor, episode 56.
Yeah,
we're still in a little lull, but thank God for Peacemaker.
No kidding. I tell you what, it is not only continuing to entertain us, but it's continuing to deliver, and we'll definitely get into the breakdown this week. Before we get started, though, I do want to send out a happy
Special announcement,
special happy birthday to my daughter Kendall. She turned 20 today, so happy birthday, my love, and I miss you, and she's at school at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and wish I were there with you, honey, but happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kendall. Yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday, Kendall. Make smart decisions.
Well, thankfully her mother's there with her, so hopefully Kendall can help mother make smart decisions this weekend.
Very good.
And then we have another reminder about our Comic-Con event coming out in March, right?
Yeah, March 5th at the Dulles Expo Center, the Chantilly Dulles Expo Center. We have a table, and we're going to do our podcast YouTube show from there and hand out some swag, and we're also going to take some questions. And you and I, last episode, kind of voiced our concerns that these are going to be tough questions. These are going to be the legit questions. So looking forward to it.
We're in the belly of the beast at that place. But hopefully get some more listeners and meet some people that have and share common interest, and it'll be
good
a fun
exposure.
Time. Yeah.
Fairfax Comic-Con, March 5th in Chantilly, Virginia.
So if you're in the area, come on out and check it out. Check out the Comic-Con. I'm sure there'll be a ton of vendors there and a lot of things going on that'll be interesting. If you're a comic book fan, fan of the industry, it'll be great to be there. But come by and say hello. Definitely pop in and say hello to the guys.
Absolutely.
All right, and then we want to make sure we thank our patrons. These are listeners that bring the show to you. Patreon.com/supertalk. Only costs $1 per episode to donate to support the show directly, and we want to thank all those patrons out there that help us keep going.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Shout out to Gavin Klingham. He's one of the biggest fans we have up north. Appreciate all the efforts, and thank you guys. Please help support the show.
Well, let's jump right into the review of episode 6 of Peacemaker this week. So we're coming down to the wire. We got 2 more to go, and boy, things are ramping up quickly. This was you mentioned this last week, Titanium. There's no filler episodes.
No.
They keep bringing the heat with all of these episodes.
Absolutely. The story keeps moving forward at a frantic pace, and the twists and turns of this show is just brilliant. I mean, it's awesome. Filler episodes? No, sir. This is action-packed, and some major things happen.
Yeah, so, big reveal at the end of last episode. Leota found out that Murren was a butterfly, and the episode ended that way, and so the confrontation between the two of them started this episode off. And Harcourt shows up as, Murren's kind of trying to talk her off the ledge, and Harcourt says, yes, I know, I'm aware, we're all aware, Economist is aware, even though he, puts his fingers in the ear every time we talk about it, but they go back into the office, and Murren basically explains to Leota that, yes, I'm a butterfly, but I'm the only one rebelling against my entire alien race. They came here to find a new place to inhabit, and they're on a goal of world domination, and I'm fighting against them and trying to protect the human race from my butterfly race.
Yeah, that's why they've seemingly taken over a lot of figureheads throughout the world in order to gain power and to move their agenda forward of world domination. So it's still not. I don't know. I still think it's fishy, but hopefully we find out more. But man, that was a good show.
Yeah, and we also find that the team's new mission now is after they raided the bottling facility last week. They're like, well, we know where we tracked a truck coming and going from the bottling facility.
Economists tracked that truck, yeah.
And we said the food's getting there from somewhere, and we know that they're using that facility to bottle the food. But where's it coming from? They track it to a farm, and they said, well, we need to find the cow. And I'm like, well, a cow? And they're like, yeah, there's a cow that produces the food, and they're putting it in these big vats and then shipping it off to the bottling facility for distribution. Do you think it's a real cow, or do you think it's a real cow that a butterfly has inhabited, like the gorilla, or do you think the cow is like kind of a term they're using for some alien being that creates the food?
Mother's milk type of thing, like it's a weird saying for some kind of creature,
right?
Or
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was some lady, or some other creature, or maybe it is just a cow.
Well, I'll tell you what, that barn was huge.
Yeah.
So you don't need a barn of that size for a single cow.
Well, remember he said they're burrowers.
Everything's underground.
Everything's
right?
underground. So that could just be the tunnel that leads to the bigger facility underground where the cow is. So
I'm sure we're going to find out.
I'm sure
we
only have 2 more episodes left.
Right.
That makes
2
me
more to
sad.
go. Yeah.
That makes me sad.
Another big plot point this week was the White Dragon did finally get out of prison. So we found out that Agent Song went to a judge last episode and he was working around the police captain who had infiltrated the police, and went directly to a judge, got issued a warrant for Chris to arrest him and Chris Smith, the Peacemaker, and freed the father. And the father is pissed. And he's out for blood. He's like, he gets picked up by one of his cronies and says, what are we going to do? He goes, I'm going to do what I should have done years ago. I'm going to kill my son.
Yeah, he's after Peacemaker now, and he's got his whole crew at his house, and
all the white supremacists.
Yeah, that was a cool scene. Him putting on his outfit.
He goes back into his secret vault, virtual vault that he has in his house, and puts his White Dragon uniform on. Yeah. And looks pretty badass, as a matter
sure
of fact.
Does. Yeah. I can't wait to see that battle. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, we saw a brief clip in the trailer that he does show up, and he can fly in that uniform too, which is kind of crazy.
With all of his technology, I'm sure that he's got superpowers. He's got ray guns out of there. He's got all kinds of gadgets. So it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah,
I wonder what the cow is, though. Now I'm starting to think maybe it's not just a cow.
Right. I think it's a term that's used to, they're calling it the cow, not a cow.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
Yeah. I think that
it's a term.
Yeah, I think it might be some
creature.
Huge creature. Yeah.
Wow.
That'll probably explode in some incredible fashion and splatter guts over everywhere eventually.
Knowing James Gunn,
Right.
Maybe it's a giant slither creature. Remember those? Or,
yeah.
What was his movie called? Was it Slither?
No, it was
Slices.
It was the worms that burrowed underground and were chasing everybody. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but yes, I do know.
Giant slug.
Yeah. It was crazy. But so now that the White Dragon gets out of jail, the police are now after Chris Smith. And the team learns this. They hear from the police captain they had put in place that a warrant's been issued for the arrest of Chris Smith.
Yeah, Murin tries to warn him, right?
He's calling him. Oh, and the scene between Taskmaster and Peacemaker in his trailer, the butterfly they have in the jar is trying to communicate with him. Vigilante and Peacemaker. Yeah. The butterfly's in the jar trying to communicate with them, and they're asking questions, and the butterfly's answering with taps on the jar, and Vigilante keeps asking these just crazy questions, like, "What's your favorite color?" It's got to be a yes or no question. Is blue your favorite color? Is red who cares what the favorite color is? I mean, it was just hysterical.
Is teal your favorite color? He's like, what? Why would you start with teal? It was so funny.
It is hysterical, just the interactions between the two of them. But that is going on while the police are basically surrounding
his trailer. Yeah.
Right. And Vigilante's phone, they finally decide to call Vigilante, and gosh, like, just so many small little things in these episodes that are just make you chuckle. Like, his ringtone is Barbie Girl, the song Barbie Girl. Yeah. It's hysterical. I mean, like, who has a ringtone of Barbie Girl? It's the song Barbie Girl. I don't even want to go into it. But
please don't.
No, that was hysterical. But they finally let them know, hey, the police are here. And they're able to escape out of the roof hatch. They have a hatch in the roof, skylight. They're able to escape out of there while the police ransack his trailer. And they do find the diary that Leota had planted there, and we also found out that it was not his diary.
No.
Which we originally thought that maybe they took it from him and then brought it back so he wouldn't know it was missing. He did admit, he's like, I don't have a diary. I've got a notebook and I've never written in it, or something like that. And so this is a diary that Amanda Waller created to basically frame Peacemaker for everything the team was doing. So ultimately what would happen after they complete their mission, they would have used that diary as a way to basically put Peacemaker in jail again,
right,
and frame him for all the things that they had to do as the team.
Yeah, it had every detail about an alien invasion and how he was killing people for the alien invasion and this and that. And you find out later in the episode that what was in the diary. But yeah, that's Amanda Waller is not a good person.
No, and Leota's
her mom.
Yeah, Leota's figuring that out.
Yeah.
She's now struggling with, she likes Peacemaker. They have a really good relationship. She likes the job she's doing, but she's struggling now between doing the right thing and doing what her mom's telling her to do. And everybody that she works for has said that her mom is a POS, right?
Yeah.
And you got to be basically crazy to be listening to, and nobody knows that she's her daughter either, which is also something she's kept secret this whole time,
hiding from the team.
And she's basically said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And she goes back to her girlfriend / fiance / wife and says, I'm out. I'm done. I just want to come back home.
I feel super bad that I've earned this guy's trust, and now I've kind of broken his trust because I've kept secrets from him. Yeah.
But then the scene right there that follows is Peacemaker and Vigilante and Eagly trying to evade the police, and they're climbing through trees and everything, and then Detective Song ends up finding them, and they fall out. Vigilante falls out of the tree and lands on the jar that has the butterfly in it that they were keeping.
Goff, they call him Goff.
Goff, because it was for Senator Goff, who was the person the butterfly had originally taken over. But he lands on the jar, the butterfly escapes and goes right into Detective Song's nose or mouth and possesses Detective Song.
Yeah. I did not see that coming.
No, I didn't either.
That was awesome.
I didn't either. And so Vigilante and Peacemaker are running through the woods, running away from the police, and Eagly is going ham on all of these cops. I mean, they're all chasing, and Eagly just keeps swooping in and just taking each one of them out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But they get surrounded by by a handful of police, and the police captain, who Murin had put in place, shows up, shoots the other cops, and lets them get away in a car that he had hidden, along the side of the road.
Basically helps them escape.
Right. But then we get a huge scene between Detective Song ends up, she goes back to the police station, and she's like, typing these crazy cryptic things on this computer,
and her partner is like, "What are you doing? That's not even English. Those aren't even words.
They thought
you
she
have
was
a concussion."
Yeah, they thought she was killed because she was writhing on the ground when the butterfly took her over, and she's like, "I'm fine. And she, I can tell she was fond of you, but just enjoy the moment. She tries to smile, which that was hysterical as well. But then she's, you see her out on some field, and all of a sudden, hundreds of
she contacts all the butterflies.
Hundreds of these butterfly spaceships show up and land at her feet, and all the butterflies come out, and there's literally hundreds of them. And then they go on a rampage. They go into the police department, and they are swarming through there, and they're infecting every person that's in that police department.
Yeah.
So now everybody in the town police effectively has been infected by a butterfly.
Yeah, taken over.
Right.
Now they have an army to hunt Peacemaker.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was huge. I mean, that's somewhat how
It's kind of a cool scene with the music playing and then the butterflies flying through the hallway, like attacking people.
Yeah, and
That's cool.
that was another interesting scene. Peacemaker and Vigilante ended up making it back to headquarters, and Harcourt had taken an etching machine and etched the Dove of Peace into a P90 for him, and you can tell, and he's like, that's okay. He said, I use that as an excuse because I really don't want to kill people anymore.
Yeah, he kind of opened up with her. Yeah, he was like frustrated, like it's going the wrong way. But you know what? Thank you. It's okay. And he goes, I was kind of using that excuse just because I don't want to kill people anymore.
Right.
And she's like, great. Now you're going to turn into this hero when we have. He goes, no, don't get me wrong. Killing aliens, I got no problem with.
Right.
Shooting them in the bodies and out of the bodies, I got no problem with. I'm all right with that. So,
but she tells him her first name as well, which was a big, kind of, that was.
What was it? Emily.
Emily. Yeah. And then there's the scene that what Titanium's referring to of all the butterflies flying through the police station and inhabiting all of the police force. During that, Peacemaker had sat down at a piano that was in the headquarters of the team and started playing Home Sweet Home from Motley Crue on the piano, and that's the song that was playing while that whole thing was happening. And he was just playing like an instrumental version of that song. It was actually really. I was like, "Wow, Peacemaker can play piano. That's pretty cool."
Real bizarre. What a twist! Like, who saw that coming? That was another really bizarre twist. I thought it was great. And it was kind of weird to see John Cena, this hulking, huge, muscular guy, sit at a piano and kind of punch out, on the ivories, a song. It was bizarre.
And then we saw also kind of how the episode ended was, there's a news press conference for the police that were basically announcing that there was a manhunt for Chris Smith, the Peacemaker. They were talking about everything that was in his diary and saying, and of course, everybody in the press conference was inhabited by a butterfly. Yeah. So these were all the people that had been infected that were leading the charge now.
Leading the press conference, explaining to them that his diary is basically a confession for the alien invasion and how he's killing all these people because he thinks they're infected with aliens, and everybody else is like, you're crazy. Yeah, he's got to be put to stop. Yeah,
right.
Pretty good. Pretty good twist.
So, and we did get a trailer for next week's episode, which was, again, the White Dragon in his suit chasing after Vigilante and Peacemaker. Yeah.
Was it at the end?
It was at the end of the episode.
No, I saw the after credit scene.
Right, but then at the end, they played the trailer for next week.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Damn it. I missed that. I'm going to have to catch it.
Yeah.
So what happens in it?
Well, I think Vigilante and Peacemaker and the team are headed to the farm where the cow is, and I think the White Dragon ends up tracking him down. You see him flying through the air. And he tracks them down, and he's, basically, Dad, what are you doing here? I'm here to do what I should have done years ago. And he like shoots a laser out of his arms or something, and tries to kill him. So it looks pretty intense next week.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Maybe the White Dragon will help them defeat the cow.
Somehow I doubt that.
Yeah.
Somehow I doubt. I think there's going to be a pretty big confrontation there. So
cool.
Yeah, we got 2 more to go. So
oh, goodness.
Yeah, it's thankfully this will kind of bring us another couple weeks of entertainment for sure. All right, well, let's jump into the news section this week. We got a bunch of news stuff to talk about here. So I'd seen this a couple weeks ago, and you mentioned it to me last week that there's some industry insiders claiming that John Bernthal returning as the Punisher is in the works, or they're planning his return. We had mentioned this months ago that it was likely that he was going to be reprising his role as the Punisher in future Marvel projects.
Yeah.
This has now been confirmed by some of the industry insiders who are saying they're actively in the works of bringing him back. So the real question is, well, how and where does he come back? Anybody that's seen the Daredevil or Punisher Netflix series, he is incredibly violent and incredibly the show is incredibly violent with lots of gore and lots of blood and people getting shot in the face.
It's like a serious Peacemaker type.
Being dismembered. This is not your Disney type of property. It would never be on Disney Plus. It would never be in a theater, and his character could not satisfy the PG-13 ratings requirement that Disney has for most of their movie properties. So the question is, where do we see him come back and how? And I've got a theory that I think kind of fits that.
Okay.
I don't think we'll see him back in much of a capacity, if any, in any of the upcoming Disney Plus series that we know about, like She-Hulk or the Echo series or anything like that. It's doubtful.
Maybe a cameo, but you're right. I doubt it.
A cameo, maybe, but yeah.
Most of it's already been filmed and in the can. They're just working on post-production
stuff.
Just
too violent of a character, and I just don't think it would fit. It's possible. I'm not saying that won't happen. It's possible, but I think the more likely solution here is, look, we've seen enough evidence now that Marvel is kind of marching down the road of putting together this team to fight against supernatural threats.
Yeah.
Right? So you've mentioned it before that they're looking at
the Midnight Suns.
The Midnight Suns, whether it's the Midnight Suns or some other form of a team, but there was a team in the comics
Dark Avengers.
Called the Midnight Suns, which really was focused on supernatural threats. And look, between Blade, the Black Knight, Moon Knight, potentially Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, and now the Punisher could be somebody that fits into that very nicely, simply because if they're fighting against vampires or werewolves, who cares how many bullets you're shooting into? Because you can kill vampires.
Monsters. You're a monster killer.
You're a monster hunter. You're not killing actual human beings. I think that would fly, and they could make that happen. And I think that'd be a great place for him to fit in. And what other guy would you want on your team than the Punisher, who's just this, badass, killing machine when you're fighting against supernatural threats? So that's where I think is the most logical place for him to come back.
I would absolutely agree with you, and I do agree with you. The only other thing I could see them do is toning him down as far as his violent behavior, toning him down a little bit so that he could fit into a Disney Plus product or movie. But I like your theory better. I hope they go that direction for sure.
The other option, and this is an option now, the other option is team him up with Deadpool.
Yeah.
Because we know Deadpool is going to be an R-rated movie.
Yeah.
Or even if they do a Deadpool series on television, it'll be on Hulu, right? They're not going to put it on Disney Plus. And he and Deadpool would fit pretty well together.
No question.
Yeah, so that's another place that he would fit. But
two mercenaries.
Exactly.
At it. Yeah.
And so I think that those are kind of the two most likely places. But your point of toning him down, I mean, man, I remember those first two Punisher series. I mean, there are parts of where he spent multiple episodes covered in blood. Whether it's his own blood or other people's blood, he's covered in blood. So it's just it's not something Disney would latch on to very easily.
Yeah, they'd have to tone him down. They couldn't keep that.
Yeah,
but that's great. I mean, he's an awesome actor. Again,
and he loves the role.
Perfect casting,
right? Yeah,
like Charlie Cox. Perfect casting. I could see Jessica Jones continuing her run through the Marvel world.
I think we're going to see her in She-Hulk.
I would love that. That's great. Now the other casting,
because she's a private detective, and what better resource?
What better resource? Right?
Does a defense attorney need than a good private detective? Right.
That would be a good secret that they could hold. It's not like a Spider-Man secret that they could kind of bury, but they could bury Kristen Ritter. Is that her name?
Kristen Ritter. Yeah,
they could bury that, and no one would know, and then she would pop up in there, and people would lose their minds.
Oh yeah,
I like that. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, and I think it'd be a good fit for her to kind of reintroduce her. Look, we've already seen Kingpin. We've already seen Daredevil to some extent. We've seen Matt Murdock. We haven't seen Daredevil. Now there's rumors about Punisher coming back again. There have been rumors in the past of Kristen Ritter coming back as Jessica Jones, and that just makes a lot of sense in the She-Hulk series.
Sure does.
It would be very similar or akin to Yelena Belova showing up in Hawkeye, right?
Yeah, right.
You do it like the fourth or fifth or sixth episode in the series. All of a sudden, hey, let's go find our private detective to go take care of this, and it's Jessica Jones, and there you go. Right? Yeah, that'd be really cool.
It would be cool. I'm looking forward to that series now. I'm starting to get a little fired up about it.
And we did get official news from Marvel that Loki Season 2 is planning to start filming this summer. So they're in the works or pre-production right now, and filming will begin this summer. So expect a 2023 release date for that property, probably sometime spring or summer next year. I would assume that that's going to happen. And again, we believe, or we know for a fact, that Kang the Conqueror is the main, or one of the main antagonists in the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie that's coming out early next year. So that's the first movie in the Marvels is first, so that one comes out in, is it now May or June? May?
I got, you know what, I'm going to put a list of release dates here so we can always refer to it.
Yeah, but
it changes so much, it's hard to keep track.
I believe the Marvels was the movie that was pushed from the December slot or the November slot into the February slot next year. And so I then think Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania comes out in the spring. So that's like the May time slot for next year. But having that either come right before that movie comes out or right after that movie comes out, the plot's going to tie into that with Kang being the villain there.
Yeah.
That makes total amount the sense of where that would fall in the schedule. So either the series is going to follow on to some of the things that happen in Ant-Man and the Wasp, or maybe something that leads into that movie.
Yeah.
And that would be a really direct tie-in to what's going on there too. So
we'll see.
Yeah.
I like Loki. I hope they do it justice.
Oh yeah. Well, that's one series that needed a sequel because of the way it ended, right?
Yeah, cliffhanger.
Exactly. We got a casting announcement this week as well. So Joseph Morgan from the Vampire Diaries has been cast to play Brother Blood in Titans Season 4 on HBO Max.
And we both like the Titans. We really do. We cover it here at Super Talk Podcast, and we like that series a lot. Some slow episodes, some really good episodes.
Great characters.
Who is Brother Blood?
Well, he's kind of, and I don't know why they're making him a villain, right? So, I mean, you're more the DC expert than I am, but
I thought he was part of a gang.
Right.
Right?
I'm no expert on Brother Blood by any means. So,
all right. I always knew him as part of a gang. There's other type of blood gang members. Like, there's Brother Blood, and then there's some other names in there that they were a gang, but we'll see how.
Yeah, I thought he was more of a supernatural villain, definitely dealt with satanic stuff.
Yeah.
They had like a cult. That's what I remember. Brother Blood, and maybe that's what they're going to be fighting against. Brother Blood and his cult.
Yeah,
that would be my guess.
Okay,
so.
Interesting.
And another casting, Dakota Johnson has been cast to play Madam Web in an upcoming untitled Spider-Man feature film. So
I like this.
I don't know, man.
I like this. She's a smoke show. I do like this. Now, when this was I got
so
a lot of. So
is this going to be 50 webs of gray?
That's funny. Damn, Professor got chops. Listen to that. 50 webs of gray. I love it. Now, when this casting came out, when this announcement came out, my phone blew up. My daughter, Isabella Estrella, and her college roommates texted me and loved this casting. She's got a following. Dakota Johnson's got a following.
The daughter of Don Johnson and
right.
Who's the other smoke show? His wife.
What's her name?
Yeah,
she's an actress. Yeah. Blonde hair.
Kim Basinger. Right?
No, it's not.
No, it's not Kim Basinger. It's the other one. Anyway.
Yeah. His, but she's a good actress. Smoke show. Allie Jones also texted me. Allie Jones was like, "This is awesome. I love her. Who's Madam Web?"
Right.
And Madam Web is an interesting character because she's kind of like Professor X, right? She's this blind, kind of crippled woman that the reason why she's called Madam Web is she's got all this stuff keeping her alive and helping her survive, and it kind of looks like a web, and she's got telekinesis, telepathic, tell her this, tell her that, all kinds of different powers.
Melanie Griffith, that's who we were thinking.
Melanie Griffith, that's it. Oh, awesome. Anyway,
so my biggest exposure to the Madam Web character was through the Spider-Man animated series back in the, I want to say, like 90s. There was a Spider-Man animated series that heavily featured Madam Web and really tapped into the Spider-Verse, right? Which is like there's other, you're just one Spider-Man, and that's kind of the concept of Madam Web. She oversees the Spider-Verse, right? That she has some tie-in to everybody and anybody that has these spider-based powers, because there's multiple of them across the multiverse. And so that was my exposure to the character, but it was always portrayed by a elderly woman,
old lady,
right? So maybe they're changing the character up. It seems like making it more of a younger character. And
well, there was a storyline that I read about a younger girl that for some reason Madam Web was hurt, and there was a younger girl with powers that Madam Web transferred her powers to, and she became the new Madam Web. And maybe that's the storyline they're looking at. Yeah. That's the only thing I could think of, because you're right. If not, she's going to be in prosthetics, like older lady, to be comic book true, right? So,
well, there's 2 movies that are already planned and coming out that we know of. Two that we know of in what we'll call Sony-based Spider-Man movies.
The Spider
there's
universe.
Actually, if we want to include the Kraven the Hunter and the Morbius movies.
You got to include Kraven the Hunter.
Right. Well, there's Morbius, there's Kraven the Hunter. Those 2 are coming out at some point in time. But, we have the next Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is called Into the Spider-Man Into the something.
The animated series?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That one comes out later this year.
Uh-huh.
And then we have, Tom Holland has already been cast and to reprise his role as Spider-Man. So there's going to be a Spider-Man 4. We just don't know what it's going to be. But there's rumors about some other Spider-Man-based projects out there. Again, there's a lot of interest potentially in Andrew Garfield reprising his role as Spider-Man and now doing an amazing Spider-Man 4 or 3, giving him the movie that he never got before. Right? There's talk about potentially doing a live-action Spider-Gwen movie, right? So that one's potentially in the works. There's talk about doing a Miles Morales Spider-Man movie.
Look, my theory on that is there absolutely will be a Miles Morales movie. Absolutely. They will not shy away from it. As popular as the animated series was, they think it's a home run. They kind of know the animated series was a home run. I guarantee you there will be a Miles Morales. Whether they bring him in sideways in another movie or he gets his own movie. I just know it.
I think more likely that they introduce Miles Morales in a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie first.
Okay, so sideways.
Right, that he gets introduced that way, teams up with Tom Holland to some extent. Maybe Tom Holland kind of mentors him a little bit, and then he might have his own movie after that.
Okay.
I just think there's so much you can do there, because then that opens the door. If it's the Marvel kind of, there's Sony doing their own projects, and then there's Marvel Studios doing Sony projects, right? And I think if you do it that way, then it just opens up the door for Miles Morales to become part of other teams. And you and I've talked about this. If you're going to put a Young Avengers team together, Miles Morales would be pretty cool character on the Young Avengers.
So would Spider-Man, so would Tom Holland, but I get it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jaden Smith's on social media campaigning to be Miles Morales. And I hope they don't cast him in that. If they do, that's fine. But I just think the power, it's a power couple there, and they're pulling strings for their son to be a huge superstar, because Miles Morales, whoever they cast, is going to be a mega star.
Yeah.
No question.
And I think that is probably one of the biggest castings that at least Sony right now is looking forward to, is like, who do we put in that role, right?
Yeah, Gwen, Spider-Woman, and Miles Morales probably are some pretty big shoes to fill, and I hope they get it right.
Yeah, the sequel that I was talking is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
That's the one that's coming out later this year. So
cool.
Yeah. There's 2 parts to that as well. So let's jump right back into the content. We've got hopefully, this is what's really exciting about this time of year. We've got the Super Bowl coming up next weekend.
Yep.
And Super Bowl trailer season is here.
Love it.
And the rumors are, or the questions are, what kind of trailers are we going to get for these comic book properties? Are we going to see some trailers during the Super Bowl?
What's your list? Give me 3 that you would love to see, and I'll give you 3.
Well, I'm hopeful that we're going to get a full Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness trailer. Mm-hmm. I'm hopeful we get that, because what we really got at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home was a teaser.
Yeah.
Right. It was just kind of like a teaser. I want to see a full trailer that really might dump a little bit more of the plot onto us.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest ones I want to see. I'd love to see a Disney Plus kind of trailer that talks about Moon Knight, whether we get a little bit more of that. But really, I want to see some more about She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel. I just want to see more of that.
Yeah.
We got real brief clips of both of those during the Disney Plus day. I want to see more.
Yeah.
And maybe, hopefully, some dates. I mean, that would be great too. I mean, but I would like to see a Disney Plus driven one that focuses on the Marvel properties.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I'm most looking forward to from a Marvel perspective. I want a full trailer for Black Adam. That's what I want in the Super Bowl. So we got a teaser for that during DC Fandom, a short clip of a scene that they had filmed. But I'd love to see an actual trailer for that movie. I mean, that movie's coming out this summer.
Yeah.
You got to start getting people hyped up for it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see that. Those are my three.
That'd be huge.
What about you, Titanium?
I think we're going to see a Moon Knight trailer, but it's going to be the same trailer that we've seen, unfortunately. I'd love to see some maybe one or two new scenes, or adding some clips to the original trailer that we've already gotten. But I think we're going to see that.
Well, definitely will. I mean, that's coming out March 30th.
Yeah.
They're going to do that. I mean,
yeah.
And again, I hope they don't lump it in with the others, but they might. So
yeah, and then Doctor Strange would be great. I just think that if we were going to get something like Black Adam that big, they'd be hyping it now. Like, they'd be talking about it now. Like, hey, don't forget Black Adam trailer at the Super Bowl. Just hyping that up. So I would love to see that, but I think Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, and a She-Hulk trailer would be my three that I'd like to see. Because you're right, I want to see more content from She-Hulk. I want to see something, even if it's just a teaser, I want to see more. I'm starting to get excited for that series. Not as excited as I am about Moon Knight, because I'm fired up about Moon Knight.
But I mean, again, the Super Bowl is a great place for them to...
It's a huge launching pad.
Yeah, right. Launch these... And I mean, again, the Doctor Strange movie was delayed, but you got to get people hyped up about it. And I think what a great opportunity they have to kind of get people really interested in seeing this movie.
That would be huge. I didn't even... Black Adam, my God, that'd be huge. That sounds like something Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, would want. Like, oh, by the way, I want a trailer in the Super Bowl ready to roll. Get it ready. At least get a teaser.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to see anything from Thor: Love and Thunder until Doctor Strange 2 comes out. I think we'll get that trailer probably a week or two in advance of the Doctor Strange movie being released in May. Usually they come out like a week before they're going to come in the theaters. So I think we'll get that maybe a week or two prior to Doctor Strange coming out in May. And then it'll be in the theaters attached to the Doctor Strange movie. And there's probably going to be some kind of post-credit scene in Doctor Strange relating to that potentially, or other projects. So yeah, I'm excited. I mean, look, we hope the Super Bowl is a very entertaining game. Most people do, but I mean, it is the one television event that you really don't want to miss the commercials.
Sure, yeah. People stay for the commercials. I mean, it's hard to get up and use the bathroom, and then when you do, it's like, oh, I've seen that already. I'm going to the bathroom now.
Right.
I mean, for
I've
me,
seen that one before.
Yeah,
right.
And then the commercial where Arnold Schwarzenegger was teasing that he's going to play Zeus, and everybody went nuts, right? They were going nuts that he's going to be Zeus. He's going to play Zeus in DC. He's going to play Zeus, the old gods or something. And it was a commercial. I think it was like a, forget what commercial was it? It was some brand. It was just a commercial. He was ordering coffee. Maybe a Geico commercial or Progressive commercial or something like
Potentially.
that. I saw the commercial on TV and I was like, oh, it's not true.
Buzzkill.
He was just hyping a commercial for Geico or something. Yeah.
Well, we do know somebody who's playing Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe, right?
Crowe, yeah.
So maybe we get that version of Zeus. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, when that film gets closer, let's do a what we know so far about that film.
Well, and
there's some big actors in that film.
I'm hoping we're going to get some more details about that
awesome.
as time goes on. All right, well, let's get into our topic of the week this week. So Titanium and I mentioned this last week. We do have some limited new content with Peacemaker right now coming out, but we've got some time before Morbius finally comes out, which will be the next real movie property that comes out. So hey, let's go back and review some things that were out way before Super Talk was ever on the air. And I mentioned last week that since Charlie Cox was in Spider-Man No Way Home, and his role is now being reprised in Marvel as Daredevil, his series on Netflix have gained some new watchers and people that wanted to go back and either rewatch that series or watch it for the first time and familiarize themselves with the character. So I'm like, well, let's go back and review some of these Netflix series. So this week we're going to do Daredevil. We'll go ahead and talk about the Daredevil series. There were 3 seasons on Netflix. The third season, as a matter of fact, came out right after the announcement that Marvel and Netflix had ended their partnership. Yeah. So it was in the can. It was already done. It was planned to be released. And Marvel and Netflix came out and announced that their partnership was ending and that Daredevil Season 3 would be the last series that was going to air on last new property that was going to air on Netflix. And as we know now, the reason that happened was because Disney and Marvel were in the plans to launch their own streaming service. Yeah. And they wanted properties that they could use for those shows on this new streaming service, and they wanted those properties back in-house. Yeah. And there was a time frame that needed to expire before they could start using those characters, and they wanted to make sure that they were freed up in the time that they wanted to use them. Yeah. So Daredevil on Netflix is out there now. 3 seasons. I believe the first season came out in 2016.
Yeah, it was trending. It was trending on Netflix as one of the top U.S. shows being watched. And then I saw The Punisher is up there again, starting to be trending. But Daredevil, great show. If you haven't seen it, the professor's going to go through it. But what a great show! Yeah.
So season 1. It really is our introduction to Matt Murdock, the character, who's a lawyer by day and a vigilante by night. And before he even gets the name Daredevil, he's there are rumors around town about the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, right? So it's some guy who dresses in black and fights crime at night, and nobody knows who he is or his identity or where he came from. But the Devil of Hell's Kitchen is something that everybody's talking about. And Matt Murdock is a blind lawyer, works at a law firm with his best friend and fellow lawyer Foggy Nelson. And they are the kind of what we'll call low budget lawyers, right? So they are out to defend the innocent and protect the innocent. They don't make a lot of money. They work out of a very cheap building. But again, Matt Murdock's leading a double life, and every morning he's coming in with bruises and he's tired, and Foggy's like, what the hell are you doing, dude?
How many times can you get mugged?
Right, exactly. Hey, blind man's a victim, right? But we do get introduced to him and some of his background. We learn that, his father, when he was blind, his father was a fighter who would work for fixers in the mob, and his father was killed when he was a boy because he was told to throw a fight and he didn't, and then ultimately the mob killed him because of it. Then he ends up getting splashed with this radioactive chemical that basically gives him heightened senses. He's blind, but he can hear, he can his sense of smell and his sense of hearing is on a heightened level, and he also has this inherent radar. Basically, he can see things because the sound waves kind of reflect, and he has virtually perfect vision because of that, and it has heightened reflexes because of it as well, which is pretty interesting. But we get introduced to him as a character.
It was his origin story in a very cool way.
Yeah, they didn't really go back and show everything, but they gave you enough to kind of make you understand what was going on. But the plot of the first season centers around a character, Karen Page, who's played by the actress Deborah Ann Wall. Everybody remembers her from what's the vampire series she was in? True Blood.
Yeah.
So she was in True Blood for a number of years. She came on. She is I can't remember. She was working for a a business that was, and she'd uncovered some corrupt business practices, and she basically was a whistleblower. And then people tried to kill her.
Yeah.
And that's where Matt and Foggy kind of step in to protect her, but then also, Daredevil's kind of protecting her as well. But the entire first season's really exposing the Kingpin's criminal organization and network. We find out about, Madam, what was her name? Madam Wong, who, leads kind of the Chinese mafia, and there's a bunch of other criminal organizations that work under the Kingpin's umbrella there in the Hell's Kitchen area. But Karen ends up going to work for Matt and Foggy, but she also is now working with a reporter at a newspaper. His name's Ben Ulrich, who has been trying to expose the Kingpin. They know that there's somebody leading all this crime, but they're not sure who it is.
Right.
But he is somebody who's interested in using the newspaper to uncover some of these things. Won't go into too much of the plot, but Foggy and Matt are doing their lawyer thing. Daredevil goes out at night, and he has basically kicks major ass. One time he gets incredibly injured, and he gets picked up by a nurse. Her name is Claire Temple, who's played by Rosario Dawson, and she just sees this guy basically like writhing on the ground and seriously hurt. She's a nurse, and she nurses him back to health, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing?" She doesn't understand it all, but she kind of understands what he's doing, and then Daredevil has to defend her because then the crime organization tracks Daredevil back to her place, and then there's all kinds of stuff that happens there too. Yeah. We do get a brief introduction to the character Stick, who's played by Scott Glenn. Stick in the comic books is the character that trained Matt Murdock as a boy.
Yeah.
So when he first manifested his powers, Stick taught him, all of his martial arts skills and taught him. And Stick himself is blind, by the way. Stick is blind.
Help him hone his abilities.
Right. And so Stick is is a sensei, basically a martial arts sensei. But Stick is in town because there's some threat of the Hand, which is a Japanese yakuza criminal ninja organization gang.
The Hand.
He's there to warn Matt of this impending doom that's coming to town, and there's something called I think it's like the Black Rose or something like that is like this weapon that they have, and you must destroy it and all these other things.
It ends up being a girl, right?
In the first season, it does.
Yeah.
And then in the second season, we find out who it really is.
Right.
But ultimately, what ends up happening in the first season, Kingpin gets exposed as the mastermind behind all this crime in town. He leads a double life as well. He's a public figure who is a philanthropist and out there to help the city and really cares about New York and is trying to do all these great things, but he's also the biggest crime lord in the city as well.
Yeah.
So he does get exposed and ultimately gets arrested at the end of the season, put into jail. So they are able to not only expose him but get him imprisoned, right? So, but great the first season was fantastic, right? Yeah. Second season then started, I think, in 2018 that came out. Kingpin being in jail has created this vacuum of no central leadership amongst all the crime organizations in the city, and the Irish mob is now kind of who's come up for. They've taken the kind of the lead, and they're trying to consume this power vacuum that's been caused by the Kingpin's departure, and the Irish gangs are really active. And all of a sudden they're being murdered. Irish gang members are just being killed, and they're all blaming it on the devil of Hell's Kitchen,
right?
Or Daredevil. He had now gotten the nickname Daredevil at the end of season 1. They're blaming him for all of this. Ultimately, Daredevil's trying to get to the bottom of this. Who's killing all these Irish gang members? And he ultimately gets confronted by an individual and shot at in the head by an individual on a rooftop who happened to be the Punisher. So this is when John Bernthal, the Punisher character, shows up, and he is there just killing anybody and everybody he can, to make the city safe, and to fight crime his way.
Avenge his family.
Right. So we get introduced to Frank Castle, the Punisher. he ultimately gets exposed, and then there's this big investigation into him. He gets thrown into prison because Foggy and Matt are representing him in court, but Matt's old girlfriend shows up, and it's Elektra Nachos, who is Elektra from the comics. She shows up and warns of, the Hand becoming active in the city again, and her and Matt, are getting reconnected, and he's distracted by what's going on with her, that he doesn't show up to court, so Punisher gets thrown in jail. Mm-hmm. And there's some great scenes in prison with the Punisher and Kingpin. I mean, they go at each other, they fight each other. Ultimately, the Kingpin is using the Punisher to kind of get some things done in prison that he needs done, but also he's planting some seeds into the Punisher's ear about who is responsible for his family's death. And these are kind of vendettas that the Kingpin wants taken care of. And he's like, if I tell the Punisher that these people killed his family, he'll go out and kill them.
Yeah.
And he arranges for the Punisher's escape. And a Punisher does escape from prison and then goes off and starts, doing some other things outside as well. There is a big fight stick. Elektra and Daredevil are fighting against the Hand in the city, who's now active. Elektra ultimately, dies as to kind of save Daredevil at one point in time, and she's killed. But we find out at the end of the season that she is the Black Rose that the Hand was talking about. She's actually the weapon that they all were fearful was coming to the United States. It's actually Elektra, and that kind of rolls into another series, which we won't talk about tonight, which is The Defenders. So that at this point in time, when Daredevil Season 2 had come out, we had already had the first season of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Iron Fist. And the end of Daredevil Season 2 kind of set up the plot for the Defenders series, which really centered around the Hand and Elektra being this weapon.
Where all of them get together and kind of form a team, the Defenders.
So we'll go over that in another episode. So we'll talk about the Defenders later. But Season 3 of Daredevil came out after the Defenders series. And at the end of that series, Matt was injured very badly and presumed dead.
Yeah.
So we all thought that he died at the end of that series. Come to find out that he was alive, and he had been taken in by the St. Agnes orphanage where he was raised. So this is where after his father died, he was raised in an orphanage by priests and nuns and had a really good relationship with them. But he's there, and he's kind of struggling with, everybody thinks I'm dead, everybody thinks I'm gone. Do I just kind of live this peaceful life, or do I go back fighting crime, the way I used to? So he struggles with that early in the series. Fisk ends up cooperating with the FBI and gets released from prison, and everybody's up in arms about it because he's staying in an FBI penthouse in a building that he owns, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But we had been introduced to a character, Vanessa Mariana, who was Kingpin's girlfriend, had met in earlier seasons. They're together now. And
she worked at a gallery. She sold him this painting.
She works in an art gallery, right? Yeah. But we find out that she becomes aware of what Kingpin does and is okay with it. She eventually becomes okay with it.
She likes that lifestyle.
And embraces it. And, she loves him, so she's going to support him. There's a big plot with Kingpin trying to frame Daredevil because he blames Daredevil for why he's in prison, and he wants to frame him. And when he gets released from prison, he is attacked by the Albanian syndicate. They're trying to kill Fisk for turning on him. They're basically he's turning on him, the FBI. He's turning the Albanians into the FBI, and that's how he got out. So the Albanians are trying to kill him, and he gets saved by this FBI agent who just happens to be Agent Poindexter, the Bullseye character from the comic books. He's incredibly skilled and incredibly talented, probably way too talented for an FBI agent, and Kingpin sees this in him, and he then uses Poindexter's mental state. He's disturbed mentally. He's got
big time
PTSD, and he's seeing a therapist who he happens to be in love with. Kingpin ends up killing the therapist, and then Kingpin blames the death of the therapist on Daredevil, and then convinces Bullseye to dress up as Daredevil and go on this killing spree in the city to frame Daredevil for the crimes. huge finale with this. A 3-way fight between Bullseye and Kingpin and Daredevil in his penthouse. Really great ending to this. At the end of the series, Kingpin, Daredevil does end up defeating him, and he ends up, agreeing to go back to prison as long as Vanessa is spared and that she's not, framed for the, his crimes. And that's kind of how that series ends. And at the end of it, Foggy and Matt decide that they're gonna go back into business together and be lawyers again together. And we were hopeful that things would go from there, but then nothing ever happened on Netflix.
No,
again.
we were hoping that the series would at least have a fourth season and continue. It was so popular, it did so well. But Foggy's a great character and a great sidekick for in that series. I don't think he will make the jump or some of those characters. I hope they do. That would be fantastic.
We'll see. I mean, that'll be really interesting. And again, we don't have any...
She-Hulk. I think it's She-Hulk we're going to see.
Yeah. Maybe, potentially. And again, there was really some of the good things about these Netflix series, which is some of the promise that we've gotten from Marvel about these Disney Plus series, is that they all tied in together. And even early on, in the early seasons of each one of these series... They did make allusions to things that had happened in the movies. And there was some talk at some point in time that when, we get to Infinity War, that all the Defenders were going to end up being on the teams and everything. We got this promise that may actually happen, and then it never did. And we're kind of like wondering why not.
Yeah.
We thought, hey, if Thanos ever comes to New York City, the Defenders are going to be there to help, defend the city and all this other stuff. And it would have been really cool if some of those scenes in like Infinity War, for example, the Defenders were there to kind of fight. But that never happened. But the series themselves were very much tied in with each other. There were a lot of crossovers with characters in between the series, like Jessica Jones' series. There was crossovers between the lawyer she worked with, and she would show up in the Daredevil series and the Punisher series. It was really kind of cool how that crossover worked between all the series. And ultimately they all got together for the Defender series as well, which we'll talk about in a future episode. But Daredevil, easily the best of all the Netflix series, without question. Charlie Cox hit it out of the park with that character in his portrayal of the character.
Really good.
As well as his portrayal of Matt Murdock, the lawyer. And man, some of the fight sequences and just the way, he'd run around with this black mask on. Ultimately, he does end up at the end of season 1 getting a uniform, which is very close to his Daredevil comic book uniform. And had that.
That's in season 2.
He had got it at the end of season 1, but he ended up getting rid of it at the end of season 2.
Once he was hurt really bad.
And then he didn't have it again in season 3, which was interesting.
Bullseye had it, and he was portraying himself as the Daredevil.
Right.
People,
But he went back to his roots with this like black jumpsuit that he was wearing with the black mask. So
really excited they picked him back up, and really excited to see what they have for him in the future.
I agree, and everybody screamed out loud when we saw him in Spider-Man: No Way Home. So everybody, you could tell how beloved Charlie Cox was as the Daredevil character, and we can't wait to see him in future projects.
Cool. Great recap. Thank you, Professor. Hey, let's ring the bell.
All right, well, that's it for us this week. We'll be back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com, or at supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
And we're out. Awesome. Thank you, YouTube.
Thanks, YouTube.
How can you miss this event? Get those drums, Timmy. Get that bongo going, Tony. Corn on the cob, the man. Black Viper. Everyone likes this game. Haters gonna hate, and I know you can't wait to see the Black Viper. Round and round she goes, hardly no one knows. In her black pantyhose, Black Viper. Black Viper.